You're either one idea or one relationship away from the next level of prosperity. One idea or one relationship away from the next level of prosperity. So, you got your mental capital times your relationship capital equals all your financial capital, okay? So if you have ignorance or misunderstanding or myths or misinformation or any of that in your mental capital, hard work won't compensate. You could be enthusiastically running in the wrong direction, right? Doing absolutely the wrong things to help you out. Relationship capital. If you have the wrong relationships in your life, that's going to lead to debt. If you're not managing them, you're not spending time with the right. And what I find is the people that are most dramatic typically find the most time in someone's life. But the people who are most dramatic aren't always the most productive. Actually, they're usually counterproductive. So the bridge between these two things is business. Business is the bridge of how you take your mental capital and you add value to people's lives. The more value you add, the more money that comes as a byproduct of that. So money is the receipt. Dollars follow value. So the big question here is, how do you deliver more value? Well, if you have less concern and worry about finances because you're economically independent, you'll be able to create more value. If you can reinvest back into your business and yourself without the fear of, is this going to take away any of the stability in my family life or finances, when that's gone, you can swing for the fences. Your vision can absolutely change. Most people's vision is absolutely contained within what they think they have the financial means to do. But hell, the government doesn't ever worry about that. Just use the government. They don't worry whether they have the financial means. They just do it, right? Okay, don't go into $21 trillion of debt. But, you know, I don't want that to be a limiting factor. So, the more mental capital you have in the world of money, because money is lifestyle. Money is part of your life because you're living in society. Are you going to be able to master that, or is it going to master you? And if you want more financial capital in your life, it really comes down to this. How can you reach more people, or how can you more deeply impact the people you currently reach? That's the questions. You guys are such an attentive audience, like really focused. Nobody's even, you know. Questions about this so far? Yeah?
You said the more mental capital.
The more mental capital you have, the less mistakes, the more value you add, and if you apply your mental capital to the relationships out there in the world, you'll have more financial capital. You can be extraordinarily intelligent and broke. The way that can happen is if you don't share it with people outside of your family, for example, because family members usually don't write checks, right? Other people do. So the more people you're reaching with that intelligence, which that's where I think about leverage. Like I reach more people when I wrote books rather than when I just, you know, met with people at their kitchen table 15, 20 years ago, right? I started creating video series. Why? Because I wanted to be able to impact more people even while I was sleeping and making sure that I could get that out to people. That was a way to take this mental capital because I just have like this photographic memory in finance, but if someone talked technology with me, I am very stupid in technology. Like every now and again I can impress my wife because when she's not looking I can restart a computer and all of a sudden it works. I'm like, oh, I got it fixed for you. You know, that's about the extent of my technology expertise. But when it comes to my financial expertise, I can read an article from 10 years ago and still remember it today. I know how to pick it apart. So I have this mental capital that most people don't want to pay attention to that every single day. And it's a big universe, so how can we simplify it? How can we narrow it down? How do we reach more people and how do we impact them more deeply? That's this model of the value equation. So you're either one idea or one relationship away from the next level of prosperity. One idea or one relationship away from the next level of prosperity. And the key is, like I found some of the quick ways to build relationships. Like when you came here, you wrote a check to be here, and all of a sudden you met a bunch of people, and you had connections directly to people. Some people, they don't want to do that. Like sometimes that's the fastest route to finding the right individuals, right? You just write a check, and then all of a sudden you have access to relationship capital or mental capital. And what I found is most of the mental capital I got wasn't going to class. Most of the mental capital I got was my own experience. When I was 22 years old, I decided to go on a 2-year, 2-month journey where I flew all around the country to find the best financial minds. The way this came up was in 1998, when I started in finance, I was selling mutual funds and life insurance. And mutual funds were doing really well in 1998 and 1999. And so I took my family, the Italian side of the family, my mom's side, and I started having them cash in their double E bonds. Anyone have double E bonds or know about double E bonds? I mean, those are pretty, rare today, but they had them, physical bonds. We cashed them in and we put them in the stock market, and all of a sudden they went from earning nothing over 10 years to earning 10% over 6 months. So now I was like a little financial Einstein that they absolutely loved and adored because they were making a bunch of money until the year 2000 came. Anyone remember the year 2000 with the stock market? All of a sudden, after a decade of it just going up, it went down. Family reunions got really awkward. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm showing up and no longer am I financial Einstein. It's like, hey, what the hell happened to my money? I thought that was my name for a minute. And so I'm sitting there, talking to him, and I didn't want to give him the excuse of, have you ever heard the one that people say the market's on sale? Like that's a terrible idea. That's like, okay, I go buy a car today and then tomorrow it's half off. Well, I already bought the car. It doesn't really do me any good, right? So I didn't want to use that excuse. Or anyone heard of dollar cost averaging? Dollar cost averaging, who's here to be average? Who said, I'm going to sign up because I can't wait to be average? Like, it's basically saying you buy no matter what. And this is why I got kicked off CNBC, which is one of the things, kind of mentioned from Aaron from stage. On December 24th of 2008, I was on CNBC, and they said, hey, Garrett, where should people invest their money? I said, well, for sure they shouldn't invest it in the stock market. And then it just cut to a commercial about the stock market, went completely dead, and I never heard from anyone ever again. Like it was just, hello? Like I was on the, so anyway, I just didn't want to put my family in the situation where it was outside of their control, outside of their knowledge. It felt really risky. They started getting stressed out about it. So that's why I decided I'm just going to figure out what's really going on here. Because there's one story that's being told, which is when I was in early finance, all I was being taught is how to build relationships and how to sell. Maybe 2 to 5% on financial instruments. It was almost all on building rapport and selling something. But as soon as the market went down, I realized I was selling something I didn't know enough about. So every month I flew somewhere. It was nice. I wasn't married yet, so I flew and I met with people in New York. I met with people actually in Phoenix that were really, well-known financial people. And in that journey, I figured out what a family office was. A family office was what the ultra affluent and wealthy had. They had a financial team that actually did due diligence, and their main focus was, we're going to save this person tax first and foremost because that's a guaranteed return. And in that moment, that's when I said, I'm going to become an efficiency expert, because efficiency is guaranteed where the stock market isn't guaranteed. And that's where it became, what are all the strategies around tax that can put more money into your life? What are all the strategies around interest that you can lower that and keep more of your money? What are all the strategies around investments where you can protect the downside and get rid of the expenses? And what are all the strategies around insurance to avoid duplicate coverages or improper structure? Like you want to have in your car insurance and homeowners insurance, have higher deductibles, because if someone comes into your shop and they're like, the insurance company charges something completely different when it's going through that versus someone that's paying cash, like in a lot of situations, it's a huge pain in the ass to deal with insurance companies a lot of times, and they're not worried about the size of the claim, they're worried about how frequent someone claims. So I'm always like, I'm not the best driver, so I just, I still have a high deductible, and I've gotten in a fender bender, and I just paid cash for the situation. Insurance is meant to be for catastrophic events. So if you raise your deductibles and then instead use those higher, the higher deductibles, use those dollars to buy higher limits of liability, higher property damage, all those kind of stuff, then you're protecting yourself from the catastrophic. An umbrella policy is one of the cheapest things in insurance that can protect you, your legacy, and your future, that for a couple $100 a year that almost no one has, right? It's because they have the wrong philosophy of insuring inconsequential things rather than catastrophic things. All right, I'll just pause once again, see if there's any questions that, yes. I still don't have any books.
No worries.
Okay, great.
In this group, will you be mentioning, things that you suggest other than the stock market, other than what you just kind of wrote down, tax strategies and stuff like that?
Yeah, so the first and foremost is you pay yourself first, and then you get more efficient, step 2. Step 3 is you want a midterm strategy. The midterm strategy, if you do it right, that works really well, is the same thing that banks do with their money for a third of their reserves. And that's, you want cash value that's in a tax-favored environment that can earn 4 or 5%, which is known as overfunded insurance. So an insurance umbrella that is life insurance that gives you tax advantage cash that you can access before 59.5, that you don't have to pay tax on, and it has a minimum guarantee of at least 4%. You don't want anything less than a 4% guarantee on that. That's your midterm strategy. Then from there, You want to look and say, what investments make sense based upon who you are? Are you a good real estate guy because you know how to fix things up and flip them? Are you good with tax liens because that happens to be something you pay attention to every day? Are you good at hard money lending? Are you good at the stock market? Are you good at businesses? Are you good at I know people that actually made $60,000 a year because they loved Disneyland and they created a website on how to maximize your experience. I was like, I don't even know how the hell they turned that passion into $1, but they did, you know? It's better to invest in things you know, and if you don't, you stay in cash. And here's the thing, rookie investors always stay invested. Pros sit in cash and they deliberately invest. They automatically save and deliberately invest when the opportunities are ripe. So I'm not going to tell you everyone should invest in any one category because it really depends on who you are. For me, I invest in my businesses and I invest in the cash value, and that's pretty much it. I do a captive insurance agency, which is a place that I can store money and have some basic investments in there in a tax-favored way. That's pretty much my strategy. Now, some of them, the banks are financing some of my insurance cash values, some I'm putting money in. So I've got several instruments, but I don't get involved in real estate. I used to have 100 properties. That was a full-time job more than my job, and I hated it. So I got rid of most of those. So you really got to get dialed in on what your investor DNA is, what investments make sense based upon who you are, and be patient. Good investors are more patient. The rookies are impatient, and then they just go with trends and they end up losing a bunch of money.